What's up, sports fans? It's your boy, the OG GM. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the first day of November, Dia de la Muerte. It's supposed to be raining, but it looks like it's about 64 degrees and sunny here at Site B. And did you see in the news, ESPN did a story on Dungeons and Dragons? Oh my God, ESPN recognized Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, we're so mainstream. Oh my God. I guess this means that now American football is canon with D&D and Hasbro owns the NFL. And all future football games are going to be determined with a dice roll because we know that a certain idiot is going to try and connect football with Dungeons and Dragons. They did a thing. Well, they did a thing about the players, and it turns out a couple players play D&D. So as they were talking about these players, they talked about their, the fact that they role play together. This is not the first time ESPN has mentioned that, so anybody who's going to go, oh my God, this is the first time ever American football has mentioned D&D. No, ESPN has mentioned Dungeons & Dragons several times in the past. They've even covered Dungeons & Dragons in the past. They've covered Magic in the past. They've talked about Magic in the past. They've covered Pokemon. So this is not a new thing. So what is the actual story? Cleveland Browns fullback Johnny Stanton plays in a D&D game with Myles, Garrett, and Wyatt Teller. They're all members of the Cleveland Browns. So we were talking about the Cleveland Browns, and I guess that these guys played D&D. Now, I knew one of these guys played D&D through, 6 degrees of separation between me and TJ Storm and my brother and sports camp and all the people my brother has coached over the year through Primetime Sports Camp. So I knew one of these three guys had played D&D in the past. I never got a chance to play with any of them because obviously they live on the other side of the world. But I knew about one of these guys. I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to, connect them with my brother or get anybody in trouble. But I knew one of these guys. And I knew the other two played because it was mentioned in the news like a year ago. And it's come up like 3 or 4 times. Now, why did ESPN chose this moment to once again point a finger at D&D and go, look, 3 guys who play football all play D&D. Well, they were probably playing D&D before they became professional football players. They probably started to, pick it up in high school or college, or maybe even before then. Like I said, I knew one of them was already gaming. ESPN has brought it up before. ESPN has covered D&D before. ESPN has covered Magic and Pokemon before. So again, this is not a new thing. This is not a new story. Why pick this to talk about yesterday? I don't know. Might have something to do with the Cleveland Browns being, in line for a big sporting event that's coming up. And it looks like they're, on their way to taking part of that huge New Year's sporting event that happens every year on the 1st. I don't know what's that thing called. Super Bowl, Rose Bowl. There's Pumpkin Bowl, Spice Bowl. I don't know. American football, man, of the American sports, that's always been like my least favorite. Like my brother says, football is a game of hurry up and wait. I mean, there is a poetry to baseball that cannot be denied, and it is 100% pure American. Basketball, just the extremely athletic, so amazing. You haven't lived till you've seen, Michael Jordan play live, which I thankfully got to do once. And of course, I'm a huge fan of the Clippers, as you know, going all the way back to when the Clippers used to play at USC. And it was like, 5 people in the stadium watching them play. And they would invite people to come down to sit at ringside at halftime and buy them hot dogs just so they wouldn't leave. And my brother and I went and saw them play at least 4 times at, when they used to play at USC before they got good. So yeah, but at football, I've never really been a football guy. I like the Super Bowl for the ads. I like the Rose Bowl for the food and the the parades and everything. But American football, But you don't care. What does this have to do with Dungeons and Dragons other than they talked about Dungeons and Dragons? And why would they talk about it now? Well, of course, number one is bowl season is coming up. Cleveland Browns is doing extremely well, and so it's a good way to tie in and talk about these guys and talk about these guys' lives and talk about these guys' hobbies and milk some D&D love and, maybe show geeks that, hey, D&D and sports are not that different, and you wouldn't have fantasy football or fantasy baseball without D&D. Face it, you would not have fantasy football or fantasy baseball without D&D. I know 13 guys who play fantasy football and fantasy baseball with my brother. Every one of them are like, dude, D&D, right? This starting. So yeah, but I can't think of any other reason why Hasbro would reach out to the NFL and ESPN and say, hey, these three guys play D&D, and we know you already did at least 2 stories about this, but we want you to do another story about this because the Cleveland Browns are on their way to winning a game. I don't know which bowl game they're, because I don't know American and National and NFL and AFL. I don't do American football. As I keep saying American football because soccer and football are 2 separate sports. Go Brazil. I don't know. I can't think of any other reason why a major toy company who makes the NFL toy action figures and most of the NFL related toy product, like any toy that you see of an NFL player is made by Hasbro. The NFL action figures, all those other things. I cannot think of any reason whatsoever why Hasbro would say, "Hey, ESPN, maybe you should run this story. We'll give you some footage and stuff like that, and we'll give you some information about the history of the game." Well, our current revised version of the history of the game. Can't think. I mean, it's not like there's a major gift-giving holiday coming up in a couple weeks that Hasbro wants to merchandise off of and get the football geeks to buy some more football toys and get the D&D geeks to maybe get into football and buy the football toys. And it's not like collecting action figures is huge right now. No, I'm sure that has absolutely nothing to do with why ESPN and Hasbro decided to show this at this point in time. Nothing to do with the Cleveland Browns in the running to be in the major game coming up. Nothing to do with the fact that we're going into football season, the major part of football season. I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that there's a big gift-giving holiday coming up that Hasbro looks to, make up for their $60 million loss. And I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that the ESPN toy, and the NFL toy line is done through Hasbro. Yeah, I'm sure nothing to do with that whatsoever. Probably just purely coincidence that ESPN chose to run this story just now. But hey, you know what? Free press is free press. Maybe it gets another person to go, hey, I want to show up and try this D&D thing. And then they show up and they go, hey, this 5th edition thing kind of sucks. Is there another game we can play? And the rest of us go, yes, there is. It's interesting because when they talk about playing D&D and you see the D&D they're playing, it's not 5e. Just gonna toss that one out too. So yes, now let us predict how tomorrow we will see a video saying how ESPN and the NFL recognize and acknowledge that D&D is more important than ESPN and the NFL is canon to D&D, and now how all NFL events will be resolved through die rolls and the influence of D&D. They won't acknowledge my brother. They won't acknowledge these guys' careers or these guys' hobbies or these guys' lives or the fact that it was just one part of the story or the skill set. No, it's just going to be another bullshit. It'll be tomorrow because I'm posting this today. So we know that's going to happen. Anyways, there you go. News, football, D&D. What's the connection? They're none, other than some guys who play football also played some form of role playing. Dude, I mean, yeah. Oh my God, people play games. The connection is so tenuous. It's like saying, oh my God, some guy on the LA Rams plays Monopoly. Oh, he plays board games. Oh, Hasbro owns board games. Oh, NFL, the Rams are owned by Hasbro. And, but yeah, it's just, it's just merchandising. It's just advertising. It was just, a very long ad for the NFL, D&D, and Hasbro toys. And by the way, they weren't playing 5th edition. I'm the OGGM. If you appreciate this nonsense that comes out of my mouth, let me know. Remember, the holidays are coming up, and I need to support my children, those 2 furry things you see in most of my videos. So please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Please support me in one of the many different ways you can support me. Brand new t-shirt up at Teespring featuring the brand new art that you see at the beginning of this video. So if you want to get your very own official OGGM rolling hits and rockin' crits since 2015, we've got stickers, we've got notebooks. We've got T-shirts. Of course, we've got all the rest of the West Coast Grognard fashion line. Copyright 2022 by me and my brother, West Coast Grognard. So if you use that name to try and defame me, I can go after you. Just tossing that out there. Anyways, that's it for me. I will talk to you later. See ya.